let me transition to David Lisi, who is Executive Director of Comcast Converged Products. And David is going to talk to us about execution, where the rubber meets the road, and his approaches and strategies there. David, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. When Victoria asked me to present on execution, I went to my go-to guide to figure out what execution was exactly, and Dilbert says that that we should make it look like an accident. And the reality is that we really can't make it look like an accident. It's a very deliberate thing. Okay, so I just wanted to talk really tactical about execution and how we use Workboard here to make things happen quickly. So as with many of you, there's always an ingest process that drops things into your queues, and then it's, well, what do I do next? Well, we've been using Workboard to keep organized, keep situational awareness of where we are with our projects, and to make sure that as we do all the work that we do, that it gets properly aligned to our goals. So as with many of you, I'm sure, our primary means of communications today is email. So I get a lot of emails with tasking. Sometimes I get phone calls. Other times they're out of meetings. But in general, we funnel down those items to an email that we then send over to Workboard using that interesting feature that we have where if you email something to Workboard, it'll drop into a work stream. So we created an ingest work stream, and that sort of is my queue for things to process. As we get in those items, I look to do as best I can align those new work streams to either existing goals or, as you know, new goals come up throughout the year. So we either create a new goal or create a new goal and a set of work streams, or add work streams to existing goals. So we constantly stay aligned on a daily basis. And then we get some initial date targets there and some initial assignments. Once we have that and we look at other tasks that have come in either from my team or manually entered, which may not have dates or may not be aligned, so we not only process those things that are in the ingest, but we look, I regularly search on a weekly basis for tasks that are sort of floating out in space without a date or an assignment. And then we're sort of into the real world of execution, right? So I'm pushing my team to keep up with their queues and obviously do the work. But as we come upon these late tasks, we push and comment, right? So figure out what's going on, give me an update, help us understand where we're pushing to and why, and keep the data clean and up to date. The challenge with any organizational system like Workboard is the timeliness of the information, because this discipline or vigilance around it is what really keeps it alive and working. The other thing, the way I help keep it alive and working is that I have individual one-on-ones with my teammates, and we have staff meetings on a weekly basis. The one-on-ones are really set around conflict resolution, escalation, problem solving, resetting dates, and really working one-on-one with the staff member to solve any problems, right? Anything that they don't want to, that they need to solve that wouldn't be or is slowing them down. We try and solve all those things in private during the one-on-one, right? So it's a open, it's a free zone. It's if you have, let's fess up, let's come clean, and let's figure out how we can move forward. Okay, so once I've sort of cycled through all the one-on-ones and everybody is happy and healthy and moving forward with their work, we have a weekly staff meeting. In the weekly staff meeting, I do very little talking during the weekly staff meeting. If anything, I'm just doing administrative announcements or reminders about dates, but really the staff meeting is run by the staff members. They talk about the projects that they're running, what their challenges are, things that we've solved, and then the rest of the staff meeting members who are not presenting are really listening and understanding how that project or product will affect them. And this is how we generate synergy within the organizations, because now everybody's sort of aware of what the other teammates are doing. There's volunteering to help. There's impacts that maybe the staff, the person that's running the project didn't realize, and we really get that kind of peer-to-peer coaching going on, which is great because it doesn't end when the staff meeting ends. Everybody's really interested in everybody else's projects, and that continues to kind of fuel the problem-solving process. And that kind of wraps it up. And as I said, we have ingest and assignment almost constantly. And then we kind of tie it all together with the weekly status report. So what we look to do is have everybody update their weekly status report as the week happens, right? So instead of trying to sit down on a Friday or a Monday and remember what happened, it's much easier to stay ahead of it and stay on top of it if as the project meeting ends or a key event happens, to just jot it down quickly in the status report, so that on a Friday or Monday, whenever you're completing your status report, it's just a brushing up and cleaning up versus composition. So I want to go into detail about a couple of the pieces. So ingest, where do projects come from? As many of you, or as we've talked about earlier with our opening presentation, there's a lot of there's a lot of yearly company goals that we get right at the beginning of the year. And within my group, we also have a 5-year plan that we do projects off of, and those are sort of the set things at the beginning of the year, pretty well known, right? So that's a big contributor. But as we talked about, there's these new mid-year projects that come in, new initiatives, new priorities that need to be integrated in. And then finally, there's the daily whirlwind of emails and emergencies and things on fire that need to be taken care of. So all those things kind of funnel together at workstream or at Workboard for us and get placed into our work stream so that we can turn our every task that we do so it can contribute to those yearly goals. And then because we've set those yearly goals up front, those daily tasks can be assigned to them, right? So it's turn the yearly goals into projects and daily tasks, right? So that you're planned out so when you get to the end of the year, you've achieved your yearly goals. And then as you've gotten these new things from the whirlwind and from these new projects, that they're contributing also to those same goals. So when you wrap up the end of the year and you're doing your yearly evaluation, it's very easy to tell what you've done throughout the year and how all this work is contributing to an end goal. Another key part of execution is assignments, right? And assignments don't start with delegation, it sort of ends with delegation, right? So in order to have good execution, what we found here is that you should have pretty well-defined roles and train the skills to achieve those roles. So I want to be confident that if I'm assigning a task to an individual, that they've been trained, that they're confident, and that they know how to do it, so that when I do delegate it, it's just a matter of following up and following through, and not having to restart the project from scratch or lead it myself. So that's one of our keys. So make sure our people are we start with good people, train them into the roles, and then have no fear assigning them the task. Another pro tip that took me a while to learn, but I've eventually embraced, is that don't be afraid to give the good stuff away. And the good stuff is different for everybody, but a lot of times it'll be a high visibility task with a senior leader within the organization. Don't be afraid to have your staff members shine and pick up and run with those things. I've had a lot of success with them, far and away exceeding my expectations, and getting a lot of good visibility for themselves. It builds confidence, within the team, self-confidence and esteem. It also is great for the senior leader to have their expectations exceeded by a team. So for me, it's been a very rewarding thing to do, and I'm happy to continue and promote that in all organizations, because I think it's something that's really key. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to highlight that one of the things that we really like about Workboard is that it keeps our tasks and projects at top of mind, right? So there's good situational awareness for the manager and the assignee about what's going on, right? So I know for me, I'm all about the web. I use the web version of Workboard far and away more than any other channel. It allows me to have great views of what's going on. I can align things. I can organize my day, and honestly, that's my number one thing. My boss, I know he likes to check in on us using the mobile app. That when he's on the train or transitioning or traveling, he loves to check in, check a work stream, drop a comment in, ask a question, and get a quick response there, and have a record of it that's more permanent than the 100, 150 emails that we get on a regular basis. And then emails, I know that some members of our team use the daily summary emails or hourly emails to keep themselves on track with their updates. And I think that's great. And even the status reports that come out in emails work very well to keep us, keep execution at top of mind and be aware of what's going on. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that another pro tip is that diversify. Everyone will work. Everything will work at some point for someone, right? So today I'm very much in the web, but when I'm traveling, I do use the mobile app more. And I think that depending on your situation and where you're sitting and what you're doing, each one of these channels of communication can be very useful. So don't give up on them and give them a try. And it may surprise you how effective they will be at a time of need.